everyone. Welcome to the Building Code. I'm Zach Matovich.
And I'm Courtney Matern.
Oh, there you go. How's that feel?
I'm back.
You're back. She's back. Kind of in and out here, depending on when these episodes air. I always kind of lose track of where you're going to come in and out. So don't be surprised if you're a longtime listener to see Courtney's face pop in here a time or two. And sometimes for me, sometimes it just things happen.
Yeah, it was funny recently at a BTU. One of the customers was like, I listen to the podcast every single week and I wasn't sure about you until you started guest hosting. So I don't know what you and Charley were saying about me before I started guest hosting, but I really won over some listeners, I will say.
That's how you got the mystique. You know, you got to just what's going on behind the scenes?
So now it's Danielle and John,
that's right.
Our producer and our videographer. They're the mysterious ones now.
Yeah, that's right. Well, you're going to do the honors. You did a great job on some of our other episodes. So tell our listeners who we got today.
Sure. This is another one of my favorite customers that we get to work with on the brand and marketing side. It's Gloria Fuentes, founder of GloJoy. She does design build, but one thing that's really interesting is she is located in New York. She's worked in Florida and Texas, and
it threw me off when I was looking at my notes to get ready. I was like, "What?"
She covers a lot of ground, but she's also, I just feel like the way that she uses Buildertrend is supercharged. Mm-hmm. Like she understands the importance of efficiency and how that's going to set her apart. And I can't wait for her to share some of her tips, some of her insights for our listeners.
All right, well, let's get her in here. Hey, Gloria, welcome to the Building Code. It's great to see you. How are you doing today?
I'm fantastic. How about you guys?
We're doing pretty great.
Yeah.
We're nice and warmed up. We're ready to rock and roll. And I hear when we were talking, you're up in New York City. How is it down in New York today?
Well, we're not technically in the city. We're in Westchester County, but it's nice, warm, and sunny. It's not as warm as we want it to be up here because we're over the cold by April, but it feels great.
Good. Well, and it's always fun to start with a little geography, but one of the things that I noticed when we were kind of looking through your notes is you've got locations. You started in Texas, you got Florida, so that's why it's like, oh, in New York, it's got to be similar to the South, right? Very similar in
Absolutely.
April. Yeah.
Totally.
Fantastic. Well, Gloria, why don't you we always like to ask our listeners, ask you about your story so that they kind of have context about your journey and kind of how your business grew. And a lot of our builders have very interesting, different experiences. So kind of dive deep for us about kind of your business.
Yeah, sure. I will try to keep it as short and concise as possible because it's a little bit of a long-winded story. But the long and the short of it really is that I had a background working in real estate and banking, and I had a lot of connections by the time I was in my early 30s that had a little bit of extra cash that wanted to invest in potentially property. And so together, during the, I think, 2000 to 2008 timeframe, I was going through a surgery. I was really, really bored. And some of my friends and I actually started to get into this, back and forth with real estate property and buying small multifamilies, like 2 families, 3 families, 4 families, and converting them into potentially mixed use spaces or just renting them out as Airbnbs, et cetera. One of the things that I found during that time frame was that there was a lot of really great skilled tradespeople out there, but most of them, I'm not saying all of them, but most of them were really crappy at communication, managing contracts, if they had contracts, managing money throughout the process of an actual project. So they would want like a massive deposit front loaded to them, and then they wouldn't be able to manage that money and would constantly be asking for money along the way, even though work wasn't done. Schedules, material deliveries, so materials piling up on site when they didn't even need to be there in the first place, slowing down other trades, et cetera, et cetera. So me having some money and skin in the game was like, no, this ain't happening. Like, sorry, Mr. General Contractor, I'm managing my own project and my own money, and I'll buy my own material too, and so on and so forth. And that's kind of how it started. And then quickly started to evolve into an owner rep construction project management business that has evolved to what it is now.
That's really interesting. I mean, I laugh because it's like how many businesses are started because you're bored. You're like, I think I could just do this, try my hand at this and see how it plays out. Love that. Love it.
Well, I was only bored because I had literally just come out of surgery.
Yeah.
So I could not go back to the bank. The bank where I was working had allowed me to accrue vacation time, FLA, all the stuff. So I could take the time that I needed to, recover from my surgery. It's one of the blessings, I think, of working with a company, a good company that really, truly cares. And so, I was fortunate enough to work for one of those companies. But yeah, I mean, I have ADD. I can't even sit still in this chair. So, I mean, I wasn't going to be able to sit still for months with nothing to do.
It's like a superpower. You're going to use it for your benefit.
That's right. Leverage it.
100%.
Harness it.
100%.
So coming over from banking and the real estate industry into construction, like what are some lessons learned or some skills that have transferred over into the work you do now?
100% project management and money management, I think, is the two skills that I utilize the most that are transferable from the time I worked in banking and also the time that I worked in real estate development and sales. First of all, construction, it's a cycle. By the time you get a lead, that lead might become a sale 1 or 2 years later, if at all. At least the type of projects that we're working on, right? So, it's a relationship, and that's what real estate and banking are. And in terms of money, contractors are a lot of times just people with money that hire trades and, are able to pull the licenses and do the things that the trades people can't do and vice versa. Right. And a lot of times contractors have no business acumen. They have no project management skills. And even though they have the money, they still don't know how to manage it or a spreadsheet. So just having those experiences, even for a brief, short period of time in my career, have really helped me in this business, as have, I think, every role that I have ever had up until now.
It's also really interesting because you started in Texas, you took some work in New York, moved to New York. Now you've got clients in Florida. You mentioned before we started recording that you've kind of moved all these. I would be terrified of having to navigate the different nuances of the different regions that you're doing business in. Is your experience in banking and regulation and also just how those things kind of turn into differences in their different areas? Did that give you confidence? Oh, I could go to New York. I could go to Florida. What was that business strategy there?
Yeah. So, the project that I came back to New York for was for an asset management firm. And it was people who literally saw on LinkedIn me doing stuff in construction in Texas. And we're like, hey, you can make more money in New York. Come up here. Right. And then it just kind of evolved and I ended up staying up here. That's what New York does. It just kind of sucks you in. And so I relocated back to New York temporarily. The pandemic happened, the business has gone through transitions through all of that. And the reality is I know regulation in New York way better than I know regulation anywhere else. All of my banking and real estate experience comes from New York. Texas, I went to high school in Texas. I went to college in Texas. I've got a lot of connections in Texas. I don't do anything in Texas by myself. I've obviously got 1 or 2 project managers down there that stay up with the regulations and the community and everything else. For Florida, it's the same thing, right? And we've even worked on a project in California before. There's always going to be a local person or partner that actually knows the local regulations, much like I think any other business. We're not really expected as 1 or 2 people to know everything about everything and anything. Even within New York, I've got different project managers and consultants I like to work with depending on the type of project, the region, and where it is. Brooklyn, it's underwater. You need a really good engineer and people who know structural and all of that to get it done. Manhattan, different animal. Westchester, stick framing, not metal framing. You know, Connecticut, same thing. So it's I love to learn. So for me, at this point, I'm doing mostly business development and cool stuff like this, but it's really about having the right team and the right people and trusting those people.
Yeah, you said you didn't know everything and you just went and listed out all the nuances. I was like, I don't know, Gloria. I think you're being a little humble about maybe what your understanding of these different areas.
But also very notably a talent for knowing what you don't know and going after the exactly right people who are experts in those areas, building out a team.
So
yeah.
Oh, go ahead.
I would say that most successful business owners that I have learned from and I consider mentors, whether I've met them in person or not, Dan from Buildertrend being one of those people, is that they just hire people that are really, really good at what they do and not what you do, you know? So that way, or maybe I said that in reverse, but you get my point. Like if I'm not good at, you know, managing spreadsheets, then obviously I'm going to hire somebody else to manage the spreadsheets. At this point, we don't have a single spreadsheet. We've got Buildertrend, thank God. And not only do we have Buildertrend, we've got like this whole Buildertrend team on top of that. So it's almost like an extension of our business. And that's how we actually sell it.
Yeah, let's dive into like tell us about your Buildertrend journey, how you got started and how you're using it, because I feel like you've sort of supercharged Buildertrend.
Also, I want to steal the headline like, we don't have a spreadsheet, we have Buildertrend. You know, like that is quite in construction. That's a hot take. That's a spicy take.
Yeah. We do not use spreadsheets anymore. If somebody sends me a spreadsheet, I get really upset. Yeah. Why is this not in to-dos on Buildertrend or as a takeoff or an estimate or a purchase order or what's going on here? And do we need to get you set up with the Buildertrend rep, you know, to get trained on it? So, you know, I started this business as myself and one admin, and she has been with me for 15 years now and is no longer my admin. Again, we got Buildertrend and she's now a partner and silent, taking time off. The business really just comes to quarterly board meetings and that's about it. Right. And that's where the joy comes from. Tamara, Joy, and Gloria, you know, all of that. Right. So when we started to grow and when I started to tackle more than 2 projects at a time, all at different phases and different people, I actually sought out for a solution that kind of performed like an ERP, very similar to NetSuite or Oracle, which is what the large corporate banks or retail shops that I had worked at prior used to use. I'm an elder millennial. I've always used technology. I've used to code when I was in middle school. You know, that was part of our curriculum. I have embraced technology in everything that I do. In fact, it's what set us apart from every other business that was in our, I guess, world, our competitors from the get-go, because the reality is nobody wanted to hire a construction project manager that looked like this, didn't have a construction project management degree, no degree whatsoever, college dropout, kicked out of high school, like had a million jobs and a banker and a real estate agent. Like seriously, like what qualifications did I have? I mean, I have a lot, because I come from a family in construction, but that's story for another day. But still, a lot of people, that the qualification was our references were great and we used technology. And so Buildertrend came as we grew. There was nothing out there, and we had worked with GCs that had used other solutions. And some of them were really big. Some of them were very well known. You know, Microsoft projects always being used for scheduling, we felt like, and still to this day, Primavera and a few others. And I'm not knocking any of them. They're great for what they are. But then at the same time, they are what they are. And we found ourselves utilizing utilizing 3 to 4 different solutions to achieve what we needed to achieve. And the reality is we are a small boutique company. We went from 2 people to 3 people to 4, 5, now 6, 7, depending on the time of year, the projects we're working on, and the project managers that we bring on board, right? And so we didn't need something that cost a percentage of what our projects were, because our projects are worth millions and millions of dollars, and we can't afford that. And, we also can't compete with, having to pay $50 for this one, $100 for this one, $10 for this one.
Your systems together.
Yeah, exactly. And then it all adds up. So I was like, no way, we've got to build an ERP. I even thought about building one out. And then when I started to dig into this rabbit hole, I found that there was a lot of smaller solutions that were really cute, but then they were full of bugs. And I was like, man, there's got to be something like in between. And I honestly, to this day, still don't know how I came across Buildertrend, like to this day, but I came across Buildertrend. I did a trial. I started off with the small package, and just started using scheduling and to-dos. And that was it. We didn't use anything else. And slowly but surely, I was like, oh. And then the customer service is really where it kind of blew up for me, because you give us a dedicated account rep. We have all these trainings and webinars, universities, all of that stuff for the people who want to go research it on YouTube themselves. And all of a sudden, I have an entire team actually using a software and not complaining to me about bugs, about too busy, about the UI, and all of the stuff. And I know I'm geeking out here, but these are all things that are very, very important. And at that point, I was like, okay, I told our sales rep, I think we can, we did like a 3-month trial with you guys at a lower rate. And, I think at that point, after the 3 months, I had several projects and a big redevelopment that we were working on. And I was like, I think we can modify this to what we need. You've promised me certain features. I see some of them rolling out. So you're not full of ish. Let's do it. Because once you commit to a software like this, you really got to commit.
Totally. I think what's really interesting for you as well in the line of work you're doing, you're balancing commercial and residential projects, and that can be hard to find a software that really is able to accommodate both. Do you find that when you mention like modifications, are you having to change the way that you're using it for those differences, or are you able to kind of run it the same way to really optimize the experience?
Yeah. So one of the things that I think Buildertrend recently changed, not recently, but prior, was that it always said homeowner. And so I was like, can I just say owner? Like, it's like, it just like throws people off. Right. So like little tweaks like that, I think is one of the modifications. And then for us, the tags and the categories. So we have different tags and categories for commercial and residential. And then the way that we build out estimates and takeoffs and the actual schedule is a little bit different for commercial and residential. But the reality is most commercial in New York, most residential in New York is commercial because it's in a commercial building. And so that is why we really don't see much of a difference between commercial and residential projects, because it's always got kind of a commercial component to it.
It makes a lot of sense. And that sounds like you did have a great coach that taught you how to get the most out of these abilities to really, find the needles in the haystack. I think that's where people, I've trained a lot of customers, they get lost a little bit of saying like, well, I don't think this will work. And it's like, no, it does work if you understand how you can leave those breadcrumbs for yourself to run a report or to filter down, or if you need an additional field, you're able to extend it. So no matter what type of construction you do, at the end of the day, it's kind of a trick question. It's like, is there a big difference between commercial and residential? I mean, there is in pre-con and the development and all the things that go with it. But at the end of the day, like the structure's going up. The scopes are bigger, but it should be able to accommodate.
Yes and no. I don't know. I saw some mega houses that you guys have visited out there for like AFT construction.
Yeah, true.
And Killowen. Like, I mean, those are small buildings and like
Compounds.
ranches and compounds. Yeah, that's like, I mean, some of them are like bigger than some boutique hotels back home in the Caribbean. I'm straight up. So
Yeah.
I don't know.
Yeah, it's definitely an education. It's interesting. It's definitely interesting. I mean, there's always the conversations around like there's a lot more formality on the commercial side in terms of like having the RFI process, submittals, architects, all these things. But, you know, depending on the use case of your commercial experience, you know, Buildertrend is able to do, I've worked with a lot of commercial builders that are really successful with it.
Yeah. And I also, you know, a commercial build out is typically in a city like New York or in a place like Miami, Palm Beach, you know, Houston, Austin, Dallas, Los Angeles, whatever. Those are the major cities where our retail clients typically play. It's a boutique luxury fitness or retail space that's about 3,000 to 5,000 square feet. Like, let's be honest, that's the size of the average house, okay, in some of these Midwest places. Most of them are like 2,000, 3,000 square feet around here, up here. But where we've done residential in Dallas, like these houses are massive, okay? And so depending on where you are in the sphere of construction, we're really looking at the size of the space. And so the square footage, the area footage is really what is the same, as is the budgets that we are working with. We're typically working with budgets between 1 and 5 million, and now moving into a $5 and $10 million range, right? Some of our build outs are $500,000, but then you add all the equipment and everything else, you're quickly jumping into $1 million+ build out. So the time frames are very similar. So the process of construction is the same. And the reality is, I think the residential clients that work with us because we run residential projects like commercial projects, and the residential industry could learn a little bit about the commercial process and maybe steal a little bit of that formality so that they can deal with a lot less change orders.
Gloria, at the beginning of the episode, you'd said that what set you apart early on was that you were using technology. Maybe to put a nice ribbon on this, but do you think that technology will continue to set you apart? Is it still a part of what makes you innovative, or is it what's allowing you to compete in the industry?
Yeah, absolutely. We really don't have any competition that is using technology the way that we use technology, from using technology for our business to AI for our marketing and our creative and everything else that we do. And I think that technology will continue to play a huge role in how we differentiate ourselves from everybody else.
What would your advice be to someone who hears that and they're like, well, I want to do that? Where would you start? What would be the way that they can go and kind of, or what would you say to them, excuse me, to get started with those, other technologies, even outside of the Buildertrend space?
Yeah, that's actually a really good question, because I get that question quite a bit. And I just tell people that honestly, nobody wanted to walk around with these things in their hand when they first came out. Okay. And when we switched from the brick phone to the flip phone, and now I'm aging myself, even though I look super young, nobody wanted to do that either. And then there was BlackBerry switching over to iPhone. The BlackBerry users were like super hesitant. There's always going to be all this new technology that is going to come out. Okay. And I guarantee that most builders are using technology and they don't even realize it. They might be using the notes on their phone, right? They are using text message or group chats on WhatsApp, right? So I I typically will, if I'm trying to implement a new technology or trying to onboard someone onto Buildertrend, the way that I explain it is with whatever they're already using, it be a tablet, a phone, or a laptop that they have in their truck, because some of them do have a laptop in their truck, or they might have a clipboard, but then that clipboard where they handwrite everything gets handed to somebody else, and that's double entry. Like, how cool would it be if you didn't have to do that and you could just do it on the go? And so meeting them where they're at and showing them solutions that work with them where they're at, and then how springboarding to a solution like Buildertrend and just ripping off the Band-Aid is way better in the beginning than later on from an implementation standpoint, is really how I go. And as a project manager, I feel like software implementation is actually a huge part of our job. So, I'm almost a sales rep for Buildertrend and technology at this point.
We love it. Best we can do is let's get her a t-shirt or something.
Yeah.
Come on.
I think I got a hat and what do you call those water can things? I
Stanley?
take it everywhere.
Stanley, like a water.
Yeah.
I feel like when I drop brand names, I'm gonna get a lawyer. You can't say our product.
No, it's the Buildertrend one, and then we branded it with GloJoy stickers.
Nice.
Yeah, so it's the one that we got at the Builder Show.
Oh yeah. If you're a Buildertrend customer at IBS, you got to come next year. Check out the swag suite.
Swag's always pretty good.
Yeah, it's an amazing time. Well, Gloria, we covered a lot today. It was great having you here on the Building Code. You're always welcome back.
Yeah.
Thank you. I'm gonna have to make a trip to Omaha soon.
I know.
The university.
That's right. We'll have you in and do a little in-studio session. That'd be fantastic.
Amazing. Well, thank you so much for having me. It's always an honor to, be invited to shows like this and to have an opportunity to talk shop with other construction business owners. I really appreciate y'all. Thank you so much for this.
Thank you.
We'll see you next time. We just had Gloria Fuentes, founder of GloJoy, in on the Building Code, and I had a great time talking with her and, just geeking out, as she put it, on Buildertrend. I can't help myself talking a little bit of project management and other features within our system. What was your takeaway, Courtney?
Well, I love that she was pretty bold in her statement that, there's a lot that residential contractors could learn from the commercial side. And I hear from, I think, you guys have heard from the Tankersleys on the podcast and some of our other marketing materials, but it's always interesting to hear how when you've come from the commercial side, how Buildertrend just makes sense because it's organized. I think we have a new tagline too, or probably the title of this episode of we don't have a spreadsheet, we have Buildertrend.
That is actually wild.
Yeah, I love how Gloria has adopted processes and been efficient and told her team there's no excuses, we're gonna be buttoned up, we're gonna be dialed in.
I think that's the key, is you got to have the fortitude to kind of take a stand to say we're gonna eliminate this. You asked about the aha moment, right? I think there's kind of different aha moments when you talk about, is this the right product for me, and then is my team gonna actually use it? And then the aha moment from an implementation standpoint is oh, I have to make them use it, because if you're buying these tools to run your business for you, that's not really their intention. They're there to enable you to achieve your goals by reducing manual methods, right? So I love that she made a very adept point, which is, hey, when someone sends me those things, my response isn't oh, okay, I'll just do it. It's I push back and I say this. And over time, it just kind of becomes part of the way you do things. It's just that evolution, though, takes time. No matter what kind of structure or construction you do, right? Technology is going to be part of your business, but how are you leveraging it to get the most out of it? Not how are those things just there for you to, make investments that don't actually change the way you run your business.
Yeah, I think we can all benefit by being a little more like Gloria and being unapologetic in, her processes and, her no excuses attitude, because she's had a lot of success. So I'm definitely taking that with me.
That's right. You can do it in a way that isn't, aggressive, but it's just having an ethos, a belief about this is like the way it's going to work. And it's right because I'm seeing the results from it. Really interesting take on kind of the way that she kind of came to Buildertrend. So it was great having you on, Gloria. She's a longtime friend of Buildertrend. As she said, she dropped the Dan Houghton reference.
Yes.
It's like, wow, I don't even know if I could do that, So it's fantastic to see you be successful. And for our listeners out there, I hope you enjoyed today's episode. As always, like, comment, subscribe, check us out. And if she kind of made references about, seeing her and like she held up her phone, check us out on YouTube. You can see what we look like, see what our studio looks like.
Yeah, if you're still just listening to the audio stream, we have a video stream
That's
too
right.
on the YouTube.
That's right. You can see my awesome haircut.
Yeah, and you can see that I'm not wearing the branded shirt as I should be. I got to break the rules for today's episode.
If the brand and content director can break the rules, whatever.
You guys are going to go rogue and start wearing, costumes to recordings.
Just advertisements, like, please.
Please listen to the podcast.
Available for sponsorship. All right, let's wrap it up. This is The Building Code. I'm Zach Witovich.
I'm Courtney Matern.
We'll check you out next time. Thank you.
Thanks for watching the video. Remember to subscribe to our YouTube channel for exclusive content brought to you by Buildertrend.